Hi guys, this is Ranjit, and in this video let's do the full review for the Samsung Galaxy M31. And guys, I've been actually testing this device for almost slightly over a week now, so I'll share my experience. What do I feel about this device, and I'll divide it between pros and cons. But before that, here are the quick specs for the Galaxy M31. And as you can see, it has a 6.4-inch screen, and the big thing is that it comes with a massive 6000 milliamp hour battery. And now we have that quad camera setup where the main camera is a 64 megapixel, then we have a 8 megapixel wide, 5 megapixel macro, and 5 megapixel depth, and even the front facing camera is a 32 megapixel shooter, and other specs are on the screen for your reference. So let's now quickly dive in the review and divide it between the pros and cons. Let's start with the pros first. And again, as it's a Samsung device, it has a Super AMOLED screen, and it has that 6.4-inch screen. And guys, as you can see, they have put a good quality AMOLED screen on this. This is a full HD screen, hence it's actually really good. And even in outdoor situations, when I left it on auto brightness, it was fine. I was able to see stuff. So it's a good panel that they have put, so no issues regarding that. And one thing that I noticed is that by default, when you buy this phone, for some reason, I don't know, Samsung is, if you go to the display options, is keeping the colors and the screen mode to vivid. So everything pops up in the colors. So if you don't like that, go to the natural one like what I did. But apart from that, everything is good. And I also like the fact that now it's coming with the new UI that is known as the One UI version 2, which is based on Android 10. So again, that's a good thing that we are getting on this one. As you can see in the software information, you're getting Android 10 out of the box. And now if you talk about another thing that I noticed on this smartphone is that compared to earlier Samsung M series and their mid-range phones, if you notice, the fingerprint scanner is a physical one here, but it is a very fast one that they have put on this one. So again, that's actually a nice thing. But one thing to notice that if your fingers are moist, like many fingerprint scanners, this will also not work. So again, make sure your fingerprint is not moist. But apart from that, as you can see, it works very well. Another very important thing with this device is that it has that massive 6000 milliamp hour battery. But I'm happy to say that the weight balance of this phone is done very well. So it does not feel like a brick. Actually, I asked many people, cousins, etc., to hold this phone. And when I told them this has a 6000 milliamp hour battery, they were surprised that it didn't feel that heavy. Yes, it's obviously a little bit chunky as it has that big battery, but the weight balance has been done well. So that's actually a nice thing. But the back is that polycarbonate back, as you can see. So it's a sort of a fingerprint magnet. Now, if we talk about the processor used on this one is the Exynos 9611. That's based on 10 nanometer process, and this is SoC is used on quite a few Samsung mid-range phones like the earlier M30s and even the new A51. And I would say it handles this one fine without any issues with this One UI version 2. I did not have a problem with this one. As you can see, I'm using the full gesture mode in this one, so you can set this up, and as you can see, it handles stuff fine on this one. I didn't have a problem. I like the fact that you can just do this and go back. So in that way it works, and I did not notice any lag while regularly using the phone. The only place where I noticed some lag was when I was invoking this camera mode, and if I go back, there's that minor lag that I noticed. Apart from that, I did not notice lag while using regular phones. I'll talk about the camera later on. And when we talk about another thing is that now I also tested the compass, because in some of the earlier M series device I said that the compass was not working. But I'm happy to say here, as you can see, the compass works very well. I also tested navigation with Google Maps, and that also worked. So that's actually nice on this one. Now coming to the cellular connectivity, here also I did not have an issue. I tested this one with Airtel in Hyderabad, and it worked fine without an issue. Other parties never complained that I sounded muddy or something, and the earpiece quality is also good on this one, and no issues. I also took some calls with the speaker phone, and they were fine, I would say. So again, in terms of call quality, I did not have a problem. And here with Airtel, it also supports Wi-Fi calling, and that is also working for me. So that's actually a nice thing. And obviously it also works with Geo. Now if we talk about another thing, that is gaming. Again, this is not a gaming centric smartphone, but I did try Call of Duty, and as you can see, it played Call of Duty fine. But again, by default the graphics was set to medium, and I would say don't exceed that medium graphics setting. If you keep it like that, then it plays fine. So it's not like you cannot play games with this one. You can play games with this one, but again, with heavy games, you might have to keep the graphics settings to medium. Now, if we talk about the battery, which is the big thing about this device, it has that 6000 milliamp hour battery. And with this new One UI, I don't like the fact that if you go to the battery stats, that will be in, for example, here down. If we go to device care, here we have the battery stat. This new One UI, I don't like the battery layout stat, so I use a third-party app. As you can see, I charged it here, and it's almost after 2 days I'm still on that charge, that I'm still at 18%. So the standby life is very good. As you can see, 4 hours 36, and then 136 plus you have to add this. So roughly in terms of screen on time, I am using a third-party app now, Accu Battery Pro to get it, and according to this one, I'm getting anywhere between about 7.5 to about 9 hours of battery life per charge. So again, that's actually a good thing. Standby life is also good. So even if you're sort of a very heavy user, I don't think so you can kill this one in a day. Easily 1.5 to 2 days worth of battery life that you should get on this one. And I just disabled always on. I was using it with always on, guys, this one. So you can actually disable this. I've kept it to tab, but I was using it like this, and even with that I was getting about that 7.5 to about roughly about 9 hours of battery life, and the standby time is also good. So that is regarding the battery. Now I would say the biggest difference about this device compared to the earlier M series is the camera on this one. Now we have that main camera is a 64 megapixel shooter on this one, and next we have that the wide angle lens. Then we have a 5 megapixel for depth and 5 megapixel for macro shots, and even the front facing camera is a massive 32 megapixel shooter. And I would say the camera performance was very good, and I've taken a lot of camera samples with this one. So here are the samples to give you an idea. So these samples were taken with the rear facing camera, and as you can see, the pictures came out good, and also in terms of color reproduction it was good. This was the regular shot, and here I used the wide angle lens, and as you can see in outdoor lighting the pictures came out to be really good. Now this is very dull lit restaurant lighting, as you can see, but I was surprised that here also, as you can see, it's very dim lighting. It did a good job. This was regular shot, and we also have that image optimizer, and it did a better job. This was the regular shot, and this was that wide angle lens. Again, I took some samples shots here also. It was very low lighting, so yes, there is a little bit of pixelation, but overall it did a decent job. And these samples were taken in artificial lighting in my office, and as you can see, it did a good job here also. Now some outdoor sample shots that I took, and this was with that portrait mode, regular mode, again that background blur mode, and again as you can see it came out natural. These were with the front facing camera, and the front facing camera shots also, as you can see, came out actually really good. But again, be careful with the background blur. You can increase it and then it starts to blur your hair. And these were taken in typical indoor artificial lighting conditions, and as you can see here also it did a good job. As you saw, the camera samples that we got with this device were actually really good, and even the front facing camera, which I generally did not expect. Again, disable the beauty mode, even the front facing camera, it's there on by default. If you disable those, I could get some very good samples actually with the front facing camera. I simply did not expect that one. So the camera is actually the biggest trump card, I would say, for this device if you compare it with earlier mid-range smartphones from Samsung. So these were the good things about this device. Now let's talk about the cons. Now guys, as this has that massive 6000 milliamp hour battery, Samsung supplied just a normal 15-watt charger with this one, and it does take quite a bit of time. I did not time it exactly because I was charging it mostly at night, but you could say almost about 3 hours it will take to fully charge. It charges actually pretty quickly up to about 75%, but the last 25% does take time. So I was curious. I have this 25-watt charger from Samsung itself. This is with the Galaxy S20 Plus, and many of the new smartphones with Samsung are coming with this. I tried this with the power meter, but this simply did not make any difference. The supplied charger was also pulling about 14.67 watts, and that's actually the case even with this 25 watt fast charger. It was not pulling more than 14 to 14.5 watt. So again, if you even put a faster charger, try to use with this one, it won't make a difference. The maximum current it was pulling is what, 14.6 watts. So that is something you have to note. And another thing is that, again, if you notice, we don't have any physical LED notification light on this one. Yes, you can enable this one and it does help, but again, no physical LED notification that we are getting on this one. Now another small con I would say is that the speakers are good enough, guys. Don't get me wrong that it's bad or something, but when I actually tested the speakers, I felt that it could have been slightly louder. As you can see, I'm trying to...
Hi guys, this is Ranjit, and in this video, let's do the proper unboxing and first look.
Only single speaker. As you can see, you can completely block it like this.
This is the proper Indian unit.
So, as you see, the speaker is adequate, I would say, but I wished it was slightly louder. It's not a major con, but sort of nitpicking that I felt. And another thing is that if you've seen the unboxing, strangely, Samsung does not provide any case within the box. And again, without the case, as you can see, at least in this black color, this is sort of a fingerprint magnet. So again, you might have to buy an external case for this one. And again, as I've told you earlier, you can do some gaming with this one, but I would not suggest the smartphone for heavy gamers. So who is this smartphone for? I would say the biggest strength of this smartphone is that massive 6000 milliamp hour battery. If you're always worried about that battery life, you are sort of a heavy user who finishes battery life and you just can't get that full one working day, go with this. This will easily last you for a day or even 1.5 days, even if you're a sort of heavy user. And the second major improvement that I saw is in terms of cameras. Not only the rear facing cameras, but even the front facing camera was actually really good on this one. In fact, I would say one of the best that I've seen from a mid-range smartphone from Samsung. The camera is that good. And lastly, I know many people prefer an AMOLED screen. So yes, it does have a decent AMOLED screen. So guys, if you're looking for a Samsung mid-range smartphone, I can certainly say this is actually one of the best mid-range smartphone that Samsung has released for the price point of about 15,000. Anyways guys, that's it for now for the review of the Samsung Galaxy M31. If you guys are still not subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. This is Ranjit and I hope to see you in my next video. Take care guys.